Welcome to week 15. This week we're dealing with ideology and religion, two important concepts that oftentimes seem at odds with one another, but yet do very similar things. We begin by stressing the centrality of modernity as kind of a backdrop for both of these concepts. A lot of people argue that ideology is sort of modernity's religion, that it supplants religion in some very important respects. We also need to recognize that modernity itself is a contested concept, that increasingly people are bandying about terms like post-modernity, and it gets very complicated. Uh, you need to be able to distinguish ideology from religion in recognizing that it's an organizing feature, that human beings need these kinds of things in order to make sense of politics a lot of times. Um, but they both, again, do very similar things, albeit in different ways, where ideology is basically an organizing tool that analyzes and explains and orients people and provides them with a pathway. Religion does similar things, but does them through acts of faith, through acts of belief. We do it, we act in the name of religion because we believe that God suggests that that's the right action. With ideology, there's less of that. It's more of human beings talking to human beings. Secularization is an important concept to keep in mind in this chapter. A lot of societies have heavily secularized. The United States actually is an interesting case in that we've really polarized. That we have one of the largest percentages of Americans that claim to be significantly religious and that attend church at least once a week, alongside of people who are, pretty much dedicated agnostics when they're not actually atheists. A lot of European societies have frankly secularized very heavily. France is a country that is nominally Catholic in its orientation, but it's more like when you quiz people and say, what is your, are you a Christian? They say, well, sure. Are you a Catholic? Sort of. I was baptized or whatever. Something happened. I went to church once. Now I'm a Catholic. For a lot of these folks, their religion does not touch very, very deeply on their day-to-day lives. The text talks about three different basic kinds of ideology. Liberalism, which again is basically what? It's a belief that personal autonomy is an important good, and it should be an organizing feature for the state. Fascism, which is a brand of authoritarianism that basically says that the state should control everything, that a powerful leader should have absolute control over the state, everything inside the state, nothing outside the state, nothing against the state. It typically comes with it expressions of hyper nationalism, and usually some kind of xenophobia that includes hatreds of some designated other. And then you have socialism, which is primarily an economic approach that basically says that that private ownership of the means of production is wrong, and that the state should actually have control because the state is us. Kind of taking on a Rousseauian view of government. Again, what do these things do? They describe the world. They analyze the world. They orient us as people. They say we're either workers or we're followers or we're, members of the proletariat. And it basically says, here's what we ought to do going forward. Religion is very similar. You have the distinction between lay versus religious states. Religious states are kind of like theocracies, where again, religion plays a powerful role. I think there's a distinction to be made between a straight up theocracy like Iran and a religious state like Saudi Arabia, where they do have, religious secret police that patrol the streets and make sure that things are, that nobody's acting out. But it's not a state in which religion necessarily is this, where, the religious leaders are the leader of the government. The family Saud are not members of the Sunni church in any sense. There's also the idea of denominalization or denominationalism. There we go, got it. Which basically is a state where one particular variety of religion is favored over others, and that's again a big problem. Um, One of the questions in this text is, why do religion and ideology persist? They clearly appear to be irrational. They lead us to do irrational things, and the answer to that, I think, is that we need them. We need meaning. I think the German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once said, any meaning is better than none at all. Better a meaning that is unsatisfying than a meaning, that nothing. Nothingness is intolerable for most human beings. So that's sort of an overview. Again, let's learn a lot over the course of the week. And if you have any questions, let's bring them to the forum, or never hesitate to email me.